Welcome to Good Morning Transfers. Breaking news from Everton in just a moment. Now, Harry Maguire is still in demand, but he's still a Leicester player. The transfer team will bring you the latest on the England centre-back's future. But what else is coming up?
Good morning. We've got the latest on Wilfried Zaha's future. Will he still be a Crystal Palace player this season?
Everton is also the focus of your club, so send in your tweets. Plus, we'll also be discussing Romelu Lukaku on the show.
Danny Rose is back in the Tottenham squad after being given time away to secure a move. We'll assess why he could still have a future at Spurs.
And to the other side of North London, Arsenal fans, with Nicolas Pepe's potential signing pending, we want to hear from you about that potential starting 11. And make sure you use the hashtag #TransferTalk.
Plus, there is plenty going on in the EFL this morning. We will round up everything going on. Remember, this is your show. Plenty of ways for you to get in touch. Join the conversation. Use the hashtag #TransferTalk.
Yeah, we start with that breaking news that we've been telling you about, and the breaking news that we have been expecting, because Idrissa Gueye has now completed his transfer to Paris Saint-Germain. It's for an undisclosed fee, but Sky sources are telling us that it is going to be £29 million. Now, you'll remember he joined Everton from Aston Villa in 2016. He's been a great player for both clubs. He played 108 matches in his 3 seasons at Goodison Park. Now, he's only scored the 4 goals, but he's not known for his goal-scoring ability. He's a battling midfielder, a very good one at that. He was in the Senegal team that reached the final of this year's Africa Cup of Nations. So he returns to France after 7 seasons with Lille earlier in his career, from 2008 to 2015, before he made that move to Aston Villa. But Idrissa Gueye has now left Everton and gone to Paris Saint-Germain. We understand it to be £29 million. We're going to be talking about him later in the show, and also a potential replacement for him at Everton. Right, don't forget the Transfer Talk podcast available to download right now. iTunes, Spreaker and the Sky Sports website. We're recording one straight after Transfer Talk at 1 o'clock today. Right, there are 9 days to go until the transfer window closes. So time is running out for clubs to get their business done. Time running out also for Ed Woodward from Manchester United to sign Harry Maguire. A source last night told us United will have to pay £90 million for Maguire. Talks are continuing between the two clubs. However, we understand they remain well apart in their valuation of the player. OK, Mark, right, Leicester, we know, are a very well-run club. Yep. We know they don't want to sell Harry Maguire. We know they don't need to sell Harry Maguire. So, as the transfer window draws closer, can they basically just name their price? If they don't want to sell him, it can go up and up if they want.
Absolutely. They hold all the cards. They have the player, he's on a long-term contract, and of course he's vital to the future of Leicester City. And it's quite interesting to see how they've reacted throughout the course of this saga, which has been ongoing for some time now. Harry Maguire is a great player and he's a big asset to Leicester City. And Brendan Rodgers has been really relaxed throughout the whole of this transfer window. His stance has always been, we're relaxed about this. He said that openly a number of times. We don't want to sell Harry Maguire. And most importantly, we do not need to sell Harry Maguire. They see him very much as the future. Obviously, the longer this goes on, the more they can demand the price that they want, because A, finding a replacement is going to be more difficult, because you've got to get the right player in. He's got to come into the setup at Leicester City. He's got to learn about his teammates. He's got to learn about the style and the philosophy of the club under Brendan Rodgers. And also, the longer it takes to find a replacement, the more the value of a replacement will go up. Because at this stage of the season, players, clubs do not want to lose their best players. And that's very clear to see with the way they're treating this Harry Maguire situation, and any potential replacement will be the same, because they won't be going and getting a number 4 or number 5 choice centre-back. They'll be going to get a number 1 centre-back from another club. Yeah, that's it, JD. And this, if this price is rising, we don't know. It may have always been £90 million, but if this price is rising, it would make sense, given what Mark's just said.
Yeah, it does make sense, because Leicester, as we said, hold all the power. They hold the cards in their hands because they do not want to sell. And again, we haven't heard from Harry Maguire himself to turn around and say that I want to leave Leicester City. So until that confirmation has occurred, Leicester know they hold the position here. They know that they can afford to increase the price, they can afford to increase the valuation for what they deem for the player. And until that is met, Manchester United are kind of stuck with either you play hardball or you turn around and play Leicester's game. And until that situation kind of finds itself at an even medium ground, there's no solution that's going to be found here. But at the same time, I do want to say, if this value does increase, the value of Maguire and how we see Maguire would then be compared to the other centre-backs that's kind of made these massive transfers. You're talking about Laporte's, Van Dijk's. You've seen how Van Dijk's transfers has kind of worked out prominently for Liverpool. But at the same time, if Maguire's fee does increase, does that not increase the pressure on Maguire if he does make the move to Manchester United? Just overall, I mean, he would become the most expensive defender in the world, a British record as well. So all of those factors, I mean, does that not kind of maybe turn off Maguire a little bit, maybe?
Well, it's definitely a fair point, but what we do know is that he missed training yesterday and also missed sort of media duties as well for Leicester, Alice, but we're told that was because he was ill.
Yes, we're told it's because he was ill, and actually James Maddison, he wanted to clear up the situation, so obviously people see that he was away, it was the media day. We'll let you kind of decide what James Maddison means by this, but I think it was clear to see that, Harry Maguire wasn't feeling very well, so that's the reason that he wasn't at training yesterday. I do think it's interesting timing, though, in that it was the media day, you know, when they do all the shoots. You showed us, Mark, at Norwich last week when they were doing their Sky shoots and everything. So the fact that Harry Maguire wasn't there, I'd be intrigued to know whether he has to go and do that media kind of setup for Leicester next season.
He'll probably have to do it at another point.
Yes.
If he's still at Leicester, of course.
Yes.
At what point do Manchester United think, right, actually, you know what, we've got enough options at centre-back? Because they do have options at centre-back, Mark, don't they? Yeah,
they have a lot of options, and we've got a graphic here which suggests the options that are open to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Take a look at this one, because there is still some really good quality defenders there. Obviously, Victor Lindelof will stand out as being an important defender for Manchester United. Eric Bailly, Phil Jones, Chris Smalling, of course, look at that. 323 games. He's won the Europa League, he's won 2 Premier Leagues, an FA Cup and a League Cup. And quite interestingly at the bottom there, Axel Tuanzebe. I was speaking to a Manchester United fan yesterday who said he would rather Axel was given the chance than going to spend a huge amount of money on someone like Harry Maguire. He was obviously at Aston Villa last season, 30 appearances in their promotion-winning campaign, and someone that's come through the setup at Manchester United, someone that the fans will identify with and get excited about. And maybe, perhaps, this could be an option for Ollie, where he looks at what he's got and goes, you know what, the fee is escalating, time is running out, we've got to integrate this player, let's go with what we've got and go in January. Yeah, Michael's very quickly, you'll remember the Transfer Talk podcast that we did all of last summer. We were constantly talking about Manchester United wanting a centre-back. We're doing the same this summer, and they still haven't signed one.
Looking at those players, though, I think it's in terms of they're looking at Maguire to add the quality. And then you look at the players on that list, you know, we've got Timothy Fosu-Mensah there, but he's been on loan for the past 2 or 3 seasons at other clubs. It's about adding probably that extra bit of quality to get Manchester United back into that top 4.
Right, let's get to the state of play then with Dave.
A reminder of the breaking news. If you are just joining us, Idrissa Gueye has completed his move from Everton to Paris Saint-Germain. We are told the fee is £29 million. We're going to talk about Wilfried Zaha in a moment on the show. This is what else is happening this morning. We understand Juventus are favourites to sign Manchester United striker Romelu Lukaku. That's despite Milan director Beppe Marotta saying they are still working on a deal. United value Lukaku at more than the £79 million they paid Everton in 2017. The striker has not been a part of Manchester United's pre-season preparation because of injury. We understand Lille forward Nicolas Pepe will have a medical this week ahead of a £72 million move to Arsenal. Gareth Bale won't be a part of the Real Madrid squad playing against Tottenham in the Audi Cup. That's after his proposed move to China fell through. Danny Rose has been included in Tottenham's squad for that game. The England left-back was left out of the Spurs squad for their recent tour of Asia, with the North London club granting him additional time off in order to explore opportunities to find a new team. Patrick Cutrone will have a medical at Wolves today ahead of a move from AC Milan. The striker flew into the UK yesterday. The club's agreed a fee of £16 million, rising to £23 million. Sky Sports News has been told that Swansea are considering a revised bid from Sheffield United, potentially rising to £20 million for their Scottish international striker Ollie McBurney. Chris Wilder had an initial bid of £15 million, turned down a fortnight ago. And Bournemouth have signed the Huddersfield midfielder Philip Billing in a deal worth around £15 million. The 23-year-old was relegated with Huddersfield last season.
Yeah, we want your tweets. Just a few have come in there on Harry Maguire. Joe Schofield, a Manchester United fan, let's get Harry Maguire deal done this week. Manchester United need to strengthen at the back, and there's more as well. There's quite a few here. Jaden Cooper says Manchester United should not bother. They've already got good players at the back, which is the graphic we were showing you there. They've got a lot of players at the back there. Lee Williams says time for Manchester United to get their finger out and spend some of that money. And James says United's only worthy centre-backs, Lindelof, Smalling and Fosu-Mensah. And he ends that by saying we need help. Keep your opinions coming in. Hashtag transfer talk at Sky Sports News, especially now on the Wilfried Zaha latest. Because let's get on to him now then. And Everton released a statement last night denying that the second bid for Zaha involving cash plus players was made. Let's just show you the statement. It's right there. Everton Football Club categorically denies that a bid has been submitted to Crystal Palace for Wilfried Zaha that included an increased sum plus Cenk Tosun and James McCarthy. Everton and Crystal Palace have a very good relationship. A bid was made over the weekend, which was turned down. Both clubs agreed that that was the end of the matter. So, I mean, that suggests there that that is it. Everton's pursuit of Wilfried Zaha is over. But Michael, one thing that you've said since day one on Good Morning Transfers and Transfer Talk is that this will rumble on and on and on until deadline day and possibly beyond. And at the moment, you're being proved right.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
He enjoys that.
In an ideal world, you know, Crystal Palace fans will just want this over and done with now. Let's get to the final sentence of that statement. Both clubs agreed that it was the end of the matter. You have to go on the assumption that will be the end of the matter. But look, this is football. You can't rule anything out. Transfers, a big transfer like this, a huge player like Wilfried Zaha. But we're going on that statement. Both clubs agreed that is the end of the matter. The thing is, in modern day football, it's not just two clubs involved. It's representatives, agents, brothers. If a bid was to be submitted, Everton say a bid wasn't submitted. We're going to take Everton's word on that, absolutely fine. But Zaha, again, the way Crystal Palace fans see it, apologies. Actually, I don't apologise for reiterating because I think it's important. It was around 80 million they value him. They don't want to sell him. Aaron Wan-Bissaka's gone. It hurts a lot to see him playing so well for Manchester United. There's 9 days to go. They'll find it incredibly tough to replace him. It puts Crystal Palace in an awful situation if they sold him. The only way I'd see that he does go, as I've said for weeks on end, is that it goes to... It's a bit like when you take your child to a school. You don't want to say goodbye to him, but he's going to a good school on his first day. That's how I see
Well, you hope it's a good school. I mean,
Crystal Palace will say, wish him all the best if it's a top club where they want to see him because they know he can play at that level. At the moment, that's not happening. And that Palace just want him back. He's back this week after an extended break at the African Cup of Nations where he had a very good tournament. He played it ever so well. And full credit to him when he's got all the transfer situations going on in his head. But as it stands, he will be a Crystal Palace player, but things always change in this transfer situation.
That's what we love
It does, yeah, it does. 80 million there, as you're right, you've said that all along. Now, Everton, we take them at their word that they didn't bid £55 million plus Cenk Tosun and James McCarthy, but would that be tempting for Palace?
I can't speak for the owner, Steve Parish or Roy Hodgson. If you're asking for my opinion on a club I've worked with quite often, no. Because, you know, we've got... Does Cenk Tosun set the world alight for Everton? Not really. Is James McCarthy fully fit after a few injury hit seasons? He's a good player. I feel Zaha would be a bigger loss than two players coming in as the gain. That would be my worry for Crystal Palace. And what I was told last season was that if someone was in for Wan-Bissaka, well, Zaha will stay then. You can't lose two really key players. And we're talking 9 days to go. And I'd be worried for them if they lost Zaha as well, and I know the fans would be as well.
But we touched on the fact that agents, family members often get involved, and his brother not long ago came out and said he does want to leave. He wants to leave the club. So would it not be difficult for him to stay now? Obviously, the fans really want to see him stay, but if you've got a family member, it's not him directly coming out and saying it, but it's pretty close, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think with Zaha, and I hope this stays the way, but he has a very good relationship with the manager, an excellent relationship. He has a really good relationship with Steve Parish. There have been instances in the past with footballers we've seen going on strike, refusing to warm up, refusing to do this. I'd be surprised if that happened with Zaha. I'd imagine he's a good character. He'd like to knuckle down. At the end of the day, like again I've said on here before, he did sign a long-term contract last summer. That gives the power back to the club. It is a wait and see, but I think now Palace need to start looking at more of ins rather than looking at players out.
Yeah, let's remember that Arsenal originally appeared to be the favourites to sign Zaha. They're now poised to complete the deal for Lille winger Nicolas Pepe. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on, but Zaha has always said, his representatives have always said he'd prefer a move that would keep him in London, but he would, crucially, be willing to move to the northwest, which, of course, is where Everton is. So Arsenal, though, we are told, still remain interested. Right, some news from the Championship now with Dave.
Yes, just a line reaching us in the last couple of moments. Millwall are close to completing the loan signing of Ipswich goalkeeper Bartosz Białkowski. That's according to Sky sources. The keeper will undergo a medical today ahead of completing his move to the Den. Millwall forward Tom Elliott will join Ipswich on loan as part of that deal. Meanwhile, it's understood Millwall are close to securing the permanent signing of Wycombe defender Jason McCarthy. This deal will see Millwall winger Fred Onyedinma move to Wycombe on a permanent basis. So things moving today at Millwall.